Hello everyone and welcome to ESO Weekly for July 12th. This is the Shoddycast channel. I am Kyle, and with me as always is my brother and darling co-host, Josh. What's going on?
Darling, I'm doing good, Kyle. How are you?
I am just ecstatic. Anyways.
Yes, I am too. I'm so giddy. This is going to be a great episode.
Yep. With us this week is our esteemed colleague. I guess I can call him that. I don't know, whatever. He's on ESO All-Stars. He's on this, pathetic channel like OMFG Kata, whatever hell that is.
Yeah, you probably haven't heard of it.
And his name is, of course, Jesse Cox.
If you have heard of it, you've forgotten on purpose. You blocked it out.
So how you doing, man?
I can't be bothered. I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Awesome.
Doing swell. Ready
I'm
to
leaning
talk.
back. I'm relaxing. I'm ready to talk. Some
Chillin'.
things.
Cute.
Yeah, I'm chillaxing. The kids, they talk that way. They combine words because they have to text it.
Yes,
I learned
right?
this at Old Man Boot Camp.
GTG, is that how you do it? G2G?
Yes,
Okay,
true.
good.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Old Man Boot Camp is actually an Applebee's on a Saturday.
Anyway, okay. So for those who don't know who you are, who the hell are you?
I make game videos. I have fun, and I actually, oh boy, I do all sorts of stuff. Most of it is nonsense, and that's pretty much what you're in store for here. So get ready for a trip.
I have to totally agree with that one. Tell us about your whole gaming history with, specifically Elder Scrolls. Like, what was your first game? What was your favorite one?
Oh my goodness. Morrowind was my first. But I have gone back so far as to play, like, the Arena one. I kind of feel like it's old. Like, too old. Beyond Redemption. You know how when you see games and you're like, oh, I want to play it because it's old and cute and, like, it reminds me of the olden days of gaming? Not so much.
And then
Not
it just
so much for that
frustrates you and you're like,
Yeah.
screw this. I'm going to go play
there's no
Skyrim.
nostalgia there. So, that's pretty much... Ever since then, I've been addicted. I love it. Skyrim, I got swept up in that bandwagon immediately. I was so thrilled that that even existed.
Right on.
What was your favorite test game?
Oh, Oblivion's pretty great. Oh, this is a loaded question. Because
Yes,
I can't.
People are going to
please
hate you
anyone-
regardless.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't please. You know what? I'm going to say something that's going to cause the most hate. Skyrim is the best one, guys.
Ooh.
Ooh, oh my gosh, there goes the comments. No, stop it. Stop hurting Jesse.
Skyrim is the best. It is the best gameplay, the best everything.
I mean,
Best
naturally,
story.
that's the way it goes, right?
That's
They
the
would
newest.
improve it. I mean,
Yes.
totally.
Clearly.
Well, thanks for totally destroying my theory that I had forever, which is that the first Elder Scrolls game you play is the one that you go back to and say, that's the best. That I called it the Josh principle, and now it's all out the window because of your answer. So thanks for that. I appreciate it. Really
Look,
do.
I'm the outlier. I've always been one. Don't worry about it.
Such a rebel.
Yeah, total rebel.
All right, Josh. Why don't you throw out the first question there to him?
Sure. All right. So the very first question I have for you is, what were the first thoughts running through your mind? And fasten your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen, because we're about to dive into the mind of Jesse. It's a place you don't tread lightly. What were the first thoughts going through your mind when you heard the words Elder Scrolls Online, that this Elder Scrolls franchise that you loved is going to be brought to the MMO space?
When I first heard the online bit, it wasn't that I assumed it was an MMO. Like, the massively part, I didn't associate with it. Initially hearing about it, I, for a brief moment, was like, oh, it's like you can play with your buddies! And I was so excited. And then the more I saw about the MMO, and the more I saw the initial, I guess, I wouldn't say, like, concept art, I guess is the word we'd use. I was going to say screenshots, but it's concept art. When I saw where they were going with it, I realized it was more MMO-oriented, and I immediately thought it was going to be a WoW clone. And WoW, after you do so many daily quests, you just can't keep going. Like, I loved that game, but 6 years in, I was like, I can't do this anymore, Blizzard. And so I kept moving to different MMOs, and every single one was just, they took all the things that were good about WoW and then added other stuff, but in the end, it was still a WoW clone. And there are so many of them, and it all comes down to certain aspects of the games, like the questing, for example, is always that same, like, go to this location, kill these guys, do this, right? And I was like, this is gonna be one of them. It's gonna kill me. But then I went to the what would you call that? The big conference they held? Not conference, but they invited people out. ZeniMax invited people out and said, like, hey, actually look at this game and play it. And so I went to an early alpha version, and it played so much like Skyrim did, and I was so thrilled. And I was like, wow, this is more Elder Scrolls, less MMO. And they talked about how they wanted to balance it and do all this stuff, and I was very excited and just like, this is gonna be great. Yeah, fast forward to PAX, and the game I played there, very MMO, like a totally different style game. And I was like, why did they change this so much? And I was very vocal about it. I was like, you guys had it really, really good. I don't want to say that since then, in the beta, they've swung back the other direction, but they have, and it's awesome. And I'm really hoping that it's what I wanted it to be originally, which is, even though it's in this MMO space, and you're playing with all these people from around the world, and everyone's vying for control of this Cyrodiil place, which, PvP is going to be a blast. But you have all of these factors, but at its core, I just desperately want the main story to feel like me, a few of my friends in a world, and we don't need to deal with griefers or all that other BS that occurs in an MMO. And we can just do the story at our own pace and have fun. And I hope that's what it is, but we'll see. I mean, I don't know. It's all up in the air right now.
Yeah. I think it totally will be too, because when you see that the main storyline, the very main storyline that you do is very much your own, because you can't even take anyone with you. It's instanced off whenever you do the main storyline. So that's very interesting to see. But then, there's plenty of stuff you can actually do with other people, all the side quests and stuff you can do. So I think it's very much a happy medium. And like you were saying, it kind of seems like they were trying at first design the game to be as much as an Elder Scrolls game as they possibly can. Then they went the other way to see how much they can make it an MMO, and then they balanced it out. And that seems to be what it is at right now.
If I get in trouble, I get in trouble, so be it. The thing that makes me happy right now is at the top of the screen, the compass system from Skyrim, that's in the game right now. And there is no, like, go to this area on the map and do, like, there is no mini-map. It's that compass screen. And I love that. Like, if you want to see a map, you have to press map and you can see, where stuff's at. But it's that kind of thing where I was like, good. Keep that in there. Don't have a little mini-map that shows you when you're on a, like, quest area. You have to run there via, like, follow the arrows and the quest things. I was so happy that existed, and I've never been happier. And when I saw that, I was thrilled. I was like, thank you, guys. And I don't remember if that's something that's always been there, but it's the first time I noticed it. And I was thrilled. Like, that kind of thing makes me happy that they're going back more towards an Elder Scrolls game, but just online in a massive way. And I'm like, that's how you should have done it from the beginning. And I'm so happy. So, yeah.
Good. Well, that kind of, covered my next question, which was the whole based on the playtest. How do you feel the game is progressing? So took care of it.
Good. Well, it is doing a great job. One of the things I think they still need to work on, melee, I feel like plays a lot better and smoother than a caster.
That's what I've been hearing, yeah.
Yeah, a caster, like melee, you have a lot of options with weapons, and you're playing much like you did. I'm going to use Skyrim a lot because that's, besides being the best one, so much anger I'm going to get. That's called sarcasm, kids. The idea that you can see your hands now and the flow of the game and knocking guys back, and I love that. Casters, their spells are kind of wonky. The normal attacks seem a little bit slow, and the damage is a little bit lower than if you're melee. Like, there's a lot of things I would fix, but it's okay. I mean, example, there's a lot of spells that you can knock guys back, or you can keep them away from you, but you don't get any really high-powered, like, damage destroying the balls out of monster spells until a little bit later. And early on, you figure you need something that can keep you leveling quickly to keep up with everyone else.
Yeah,
and I don't really know that exists as a caster right now.
I hear a lot of skills in general, melee or ranged, are very situational. So that's why there's so many of them, and that you can constantly switch them out when you're not in combat. So yeah, I think it's very interesting that most of the damage you're doing is through the actual weapon skills, whereas your skill lines and stuff, all that goes towards CCs and heals and all that other kind of situational stuff.
Yeah, as an example, one of the mage that I was playing when I was at E3, the abilities that were available to me then were I could leveling up, and I think I was level 6 or 7 by the time I was done playing there for like 2 hours or whatever. I had a staff ability that was a knockback, so you could, if anyone ran it, you could knock them away from you, so you could fire at them again. Or I had a ability that froze them, where they would be stuck there, but if they're ranged, it doesn't matter because they can still shoot at you. And then I had an ability that was like a lightning bolt, that if they were close to death, it would one-shot them. Or had a chance to one-shot them. And those were the abilities I had at the beginning. The other option I had was I could have gone with a familiar, which would have been fine, but if you summon him, eventually he dies, and you have to resummon him, and it wastes like half to most of your magic, or your mana. I'm just like, this, I feel like, isn't worth the magicka expense. I just did every type of magic thing there was right there. Magic, mana, magicka. And I just don't know that there's a lot there early on for a caster. Like, I'm waiting for, where's the cool spell or the thing that I can use that will do a lot of damage to a guy, and it just doesn't exist yet. Most of it's coming from your weapon. And so you have to hold down your weapon to get 3 fireballs or 2 fireballs or 1 fireball. And I feel like when I played the alpha way back when, the Dragon Knight that I played just decimated. He had like a 1-2 combo where he'd do a snake, like, get over here, and he'd pull you towards him, and then bash you with a shield. You fall over, and I just slice and dice you till you were dead. And you did no damage to me, and I did it repeat over and over and over again. And I powered level through that. So I feel like they need something much faster for us, like a mage playing by himself.
It's like, well, you know what? I don't think so, because I'm tired of every single MMO out there that the ranged always has the upper hand. Melee never, ever has an upper hand. So, you know what? They should keep it just the way it is.
Problem then is that that healing wise, I feel like I still haven't. Is there a healer in this game?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Healing's going to be freaking epic because you have to be in the fray. You have to be in danger's way because all your heals are conal effects and AoEs. So you have to be in there with your group, risking all to keep your group alive. So I think it's going to be the most fun, most engaging healing experience that you'll have in an MMO currently.
Who are the healers?
Well, there's no set healer because the game's not designed that way. Anyone can be a healer basically, but Templar seems to have the most upper hand with that because
they start
with that.
I don't remember a caster having very many healing spells, so interesting.
No, but I mean the skill lines are out there for us to get, so they're there. We just haven't seen them yet.
I think it's mainly a matter of equipping like a healing staff, and then you get your healing.
That's right, because there's destruction staff too. Gotcha. Okay. See, that's another thing in the game. You can have multiple healing. Oh, see, this game, there's so much to it. That's what I love about it.
Now, what was your main in World of Warcraft? What class did you play? What's your play style, Jesse?
Each time I do a different game, I try to do something different. So, mostly because in WoW, I started as a troll shaman in 2005, 2006, whatever it was, and I ended last year as a troll shaman. I played nothing else. I was a resto shaman for almost all that time, and then I was a enhancement shaman for a little bit, just like to level up. But I was literally resto 9,909% of the time. And healing is, when you're in a big raid, it's kind of fun because it's basically like beat the color bars, right? And so you have to quickly click, and that's you keep yourself busy. But it's not exactly the most glamorous job, and everyone hates you if someone dies, like that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I tend now to avoid healing, and I've got a lot of melee classes in other games. Like in Rift, I was a melee class, and in, oh my goodness, Star Wars, I was an assassin, Sith, whatever those are called. One of the Inquisitors. I was, Oh man, I've played a lot of MMOs. I'm trying to think of basically every single one. I've been a melee character, but I've never been a caster, and so I really, really, really want to try a caster with this game in particular. I know that I would enjoy playing as a guy with a sword and shield, or two swords, or two daggers, or an axe, and whatever. But that's how I played all the legit Elder Scrolls games. And so I want this online experience to be something completely different. And so I want to try a caster, see what that's like, which is why I'm so sort of antsy in the pantsy about making casters work, because I'll be playing one and I want them to be good. It's like the problem I had. I played Final Fantasy 11 way back in the day, and Final Fantasy 11, I played a Dragoon because I thought, God, they look cool. And I heard nothing but good things about. They had, like, Pentathrust, this great ability. It was so cool. The minute I get it, they completely debuff the character, and I thought, well, eventually they'll even it out. They never did.
Nope.
Dragoons were the worst through the entire, every expansion still the worst, and it got progressively worse and worse. I felt horrible. I was just like, I'm gonna keep playing, and then I just gave up and played WoW. I was like, I can't be bothered anymore. And so it's one of those things where I want this to be good now, so I don't have to justify me sticking with something that sucks, because I hate re-leveling. I'm that guy. I level once, I'm done. If what I leveled isn't good, I'm gonna stick with this bad thing forever and just deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we won't have to hit that wall as much, especially since we're seeing a much more open-ended system. Like, one of the things that really got me excited about this game, and I don't know how you play your Elder Scrolls games personally, but for me, I'm like you with the MMOs. I make that one character in the Elder Scrolls game, and I make him the jack of all trades. I'll max him out in anything. I don't make alts. I haven't been much of the altaholic, right? And so I'm looking forward to the fact that the Elder Scrolls Online is having that open-ended system to where, okay, there's a class system, but there's some starting trees, basically. They're a base to build off of, and then you could end up as something totally different or max everything out. And yeah, that's got me very excited. All right, so for our next question here, and we're going to go step in our time machine, go back to our WoW days. And specifically, when we first started playing WoW, okay? Whenever I'm talking to fellow WoW fans, and we're talking about our first days in Azeroth, it's always this, like, magical experience we're talking about. We're speaking about it in, like, these reverent tones, because it was, like, nothing we had experienced before. And that sort of feeling isn't something I've captured since. A lot of gamers say the same thing about their Elder Scrolls game. So the first Elder Scrolls game they played for me was Oblivion, and that was like something that I had never experienced before. It just had that special something. Now, how do you think the Elder Scrolls Online will capture that for us and you specifically?
That's a really interesting question. I think it might stem from what we were talking about earlier, that idea of maybe it's the first MMO they played, and the first experience with playing with other people, or when you talk about EverQuest, or like that was their first gaming experience online, or an Elder Scrolls game was your first, so you see it with those rosy-colored glasses. For me, people always ask me why Final Fantasy VI is my favorite Final Fantasy game. It's because it was the first one I actually sat down and really, really, really enjoyed. I feel like that's something. It's a twofold problem, basically. One, most MMOs have that sort of initial honeymoon period where it's like you play it and everything's new and you get lost easily, but you're ready to explore, and you go around and you look and you're leveling and everything's fun and there are new things and you're getting new abilities, and then you slowly start to realize what the core of the game is. Most games, their core, especially MMOs, are either really grindy, or maybe it's too easy, or maybe it's more PvP and you don't like PvP. Like that, there's a base to it, and eventually you get there. No matter what they cover it with, like the icing on the cake, eventually you get to like the actual cake, and you can tell whether it's good or not. And so that's something that happens a lot of the time with MMOs. And so for me, like, I loved my first experience with WoW. I thought it was great. I loved everything about it. But honestly, the things they did to change it, like adding more story and adding more fun events in Cataclysm, I've always said this, and I'll stick by it. The end game of Cataclysm, kind of garbage. But all the stuff they added to the early game stuff that no one really played was amazing because they changed the world and gave it more story, and the missions were less go kill 10 of these and more interact with this world and do things in it, and it was great, and everything led you around, and it was so much fun, and I loved everything about that. And it's that kind of experience of feeling involved in the world that I think people need now, because the reason, like you're saying, a lot of people when they try new stuff, they don't have that involvement. It's because a lot of it is using that old WoW model, because MMOs take a long time to develop. And so a lot of people were developing their MMO before Cataclysm came out in WoW. So that whole getting more immersed it didn't exist. Perfect example, Rift, great, it's free to play right now, go play it, it's fun. But I literally didn't care about that world or the story or anything in it. I was just like, let's see what I can do. I played with my friends, got really bored at some points. There was nothing that I loved there. Terra, same, didn't really care. And it's all because they use that, we'll have a bunch of cute characters, the models will be great, but really, there's nothing in the game. It's all just grind and kill and do this.
They did have realistic boob physics, though.
The most
Actually,
real.
they weren't very realistic at all. They bounced like crazy, but still.
If you're an anime fan, they were the realist. And so, it's one of those things where you just want it to be really, really good, and your expectations now are higher. And I wouldn't say WoW caused that. I would say just gamers in general have gotten tired of the standard MMO and MMORPG, I should say. And I feel like they're looking for more, which is why I want Elder Scrolls to be more. Because I feel like the MMORPG genre is stagnant right now, where it's just... It's all about... The way they went was there's cutscenes and voice acting and story and all this stuff, but the actual things you do in the game are still the exact same.
Yes.
Star Wars did that. Like, it's almost a sin that Star Wars did that. Basically,
Perfect example. Perfect.
They had amazing cutscenes, amazing voice acting, amazing story, but everything you did was just like you were playing WoW in 2005. There's literally no difference, except now you have a lightsaber. And that the story is good, but there was nothing new. It was they put all their time and effort into that, and I've said repeatedly, I think that if the devs are out there listening, please make this happen. You can make the story as good as you want, but if we're not immersed in what we're doing while we're actively questing, it will just be another one of those games where eventually you realize underneath it's just what all the other old games were. And no one wants that. And that's, I think, the key of what they need to do. And that's why in Skyrim, for example, since it's the most recent and people, I can sort of easily associate that because a lot of people played it. Think about things you did there. 90% of the time, stuff you did was unrelated to actual quests or things. You just went around and had fun for the sake of having fun. And you'd stumble upon quests and you'd find things. That's the kind of thing they need to do. And there's a lot of times where I've been really excited to find stuff like that in Elder Scrolls Online. One time I found a treasure chest that had a map, and it was hey, go do a bunch of these things, but it didn't tell you where anything was, and it was riddles, and you had to figure it out. And I was like, this is good. This is fun. Keep stuff like that in there. And now they have that compass instead of just go to your minimap and look and see where stuff is. I definitely think that they're on the right path. But story is great, but the story or the fun you have while playing is the most important. So... Right. I mean, that's a lot of rambling, but there's some bit of semblance of sense in there.
No, I can definitely see the semblance of sense because, like you're saying, and you've really opened my eyes to that just in the brief time you spoke there. Story is extremely important. I'd say, we took a vote on the Shoddycast recently. The website asked, what is your most important part? Is it gameplay, story, or whatever? And I've always said story is the most important. At the end of the day, Star Wars The Old Republic had some of the funnest leveling I ever did just because of the story. I wanted to see what was happening next. And all the crap in between, all the collect 5 of these, killed 10 of those were chores. All right, I wasn't enjoying just the pure exploration of the world itself, and that's something that the Elder Scrolls as a series has excelled just so extremely well with. Is right. That you don't even have to be doing a quest. You can literally just aimlessly walk around and find adventure wherever you go. And if the Elder Scrolls Online could capture that, then I think it has the possibility of being that next gen MMO that everybody's so craving for now.
It reminds me of, I talked about Final Fantasy 11 and how I had a crappy Dragoon. That the reason why I stuck with that game for 2 years wasn't because I liked the gameplay. The gameplay was grindy, and you had to be in groups, and you had to have perfect groups to get stuff. It was bad. The raids were horrible. Like, everything in that was very Asian MMO, where it's just like perpetually grinding your will down until eventually you were like, like when you died, for example, you'd lose XP. So you could de-level. Like, it was a whole experience. But the story was so good, I kept up with it. And I want to see where it went. And the reason why I quit is because the main story arc that was over the first game, first expansion, second and third expansions, that story arc ended and they went on to a new story. And I was like, well, I've seen what I wanted to see. I can't be bothered to get into a new story. I'm done. And that's when I quit and switched over to Warcraft when that just started. So it's like story can only take you so far. Eventually people will not put up with it. And as you saw in Star Wars, story got people to the end of the game. And then when they realized the end of the game was end of the game every other MMORPG that exists, they were gone. And people were like, it was a great single player game. I loved it. But MMORPG, it was a failure. It was a big failure. And I feel like even the expansions they're releasing, people are going back, not because they care about the game, just because they want to see what happens to their character next.
Yeah, you can totally tell that it was designed to be a single-player game first, but then they changed their minds and wanted to tack on some MMO elements to hit that other market.
All right, so this next question, I guess we have to harken back to World of Warcraft because we can't have a cast about MMOs without bringing it up like every 2 seconds. So it'd be fair to say that you, Jesse, are very familiar with World of Warcraft, particularly to its endgame, because I think you kind of, for yourself, invented an endgame outside of even the base game with all your YouTube work and machinima work and all that back in the day. I call you the father of World of Warcraft machinimas even.
That's
because
true. That's true.
You were everywhere.
I feel like that's true.
Even WoW Krendor, oh god.
Oh gosh. I don't want to make you feel old, Jesse, but I like I grew up listening to those. Like there was 12, 13-year-old Josh like listening to all those machinimas and WC radio and all that. It was
you don't even I was back in the day, I was so super proud to see like all the videos I did or what was doing voices for win all those BlizzCon awards and just become so popular. I was almost as thrilled as you, trust me.
Oh yeah, I mean you were winning like every WoW machinima that came to BlizzCon. Like it seemed every one of them had your voice in it. At least the winning ones too, especially. There was Jesse talking. He seemed to find his way into every machinima. So I guess my question springs from that whole endgame thing and the community, because I firmly believe like the WoW community is like years away from ever dying. It just seems to be around
there's just
forever.
too many of them, and a lot of people play because of relationships they have with people there.
Sure, it's like it's transcended the game really is what it has. And with that whole community in mind and everything, like what defines the longevity of an MMO for you specifically and just for people in general, and what will the Elder Scrolls Online not be able to live without if it's going to survive like never-ending MMOs like WoW and EVE and EverQuest where people are still playing today?
Well, I think much like me, WoW is now an outlier. WoW was the first to sort of convince people to play long-term for a long time. I guess EverQuest, you can consider that, but EverQuest is different. Like, I guess there's similarities and differences, but I think that the similarity, the thing that is the biggest outlier for both those games is community. Long-term, the reason why people keep playing EverQuest, like the first one, EverQuest 1, to this day, is because people enjoy the community that they created, the friends they made, the fun times they had, going back and playing things that, you know, even though it seems sort of grindy and silly, they know what they're doing, and so it's a social experience for them. That's what WoW has become for a lot of people. A lot of people I know play WoW to this day, not because they love the game so much, but because they made friends over a long period of time in their guild, and they've made bonds, like really good social bonds. To this day, I go to BlizzCon not because I'm super excited to see all the like amazing new games, like even though I'll probably end up buying them. I go to BlizzCon because I want to see my old guildmates and hang out with friends. Back in the day, like all those Machinima guys and I, we'd get together. We lived all over the world pretty much, and we'd get together at BlizzCon and just sit outside, smoke cigars, and be like real big shots for like a weekend. And we loved it. We had so much fun. It was a blast. And we'd meet like developers, and we'd have friends. Then we eventually had friends who worked at Blizzard, and we'd go and we'd be buddies with them, and we'd sit around and talk about like the old days. And that's what we do. Like, so I'm going this year to just go and meet friends I haven't seen in a long time and just be like, remember back in the day when we used to do stuff like that? Oh man, it was fun. Drinks are on me, like that kind of stuff. It's social. No one's there to, like, sure, it's nice to hear about game stuff, but no one's there for that really anymore. It's about socially going somewhere and being active in the community. That's what EverQuest and WoW have gotten to. The way you get there, though, is Endgame. Always, always Endgame. You can have the best... I've said this for as long as I've played MMOs. I'll say it till I'm dead. MMOs, you cannot review or start to give an opinion on an MMO until you are at max level and doing Endgame stuff. You can say all you want about how good a game is as you're leveling, but you don't know if that's actually legit truth until you see what happens Endgame. Because Endgame is where the game starts for the first time. Leveling is an experience to get the background story or to learn to play your character properly and to sort of form bonds with people and make a guild. Like leveling is really a prep for the actual gameplay when you think about it. Because what happens is at Endgame you have everything you need to know in order to be good and effective. And at that point, that's where things are supposed to actually take off. And a lot of games fail because at Endgame there's nothing there. And people get to that point and they're looking for, I've made these friends, I've learned these spells and abilities, I love my character, I've explored your world, now what do I do? Give me something amazing, give me an epic boss battle or something. And usually now you get maybe one raid and a few dungeons, which way back when was fine. Like that was acceptable because then, it was difficult, but people as gamers, we advance our gameplay level so much quicker now. Like we understand base concepts of games. Like you don't have to, when you make everything similar to WoW's base concept of like a hotbar and things like that, we catch on very quickly. So by the time we get to endgame, we don't need to be coddled in learning how to play stuff. We want as much content as we can get. So all the dailies and all those different things, they're fine, but it's just busy work to keep us going till the next expansion or next patch or whatever. We need to get rid of that and just give us content, legit content. I feel like Cyrodiil has so much potential for all of that to be just a massive like PvP battle, a massive sort of all the raids affect that battle. You have dungeons, all those little small groups, there's so much there that they can work with. I hope that all of it is active when it goes live. When you get there aren't parts that are shut down or you can't access that yet. If that area is filled with stuff, that'll be amazing. That's what's going to keep people playing. And once that happens, they keep playing and they eventually form those tight bonds of community, and then you've got them locked. Like people will not leave your game if they develop a relationship with the people who they played with over 1 year, then 2 years, then 3 years. And then that's how you do it. That's what they need to do.
Yeah. I think you're exactly right, because no matter how many community tools, and ZeniMax is really trying to push this social integration thing on them too, at the end of the day, Endgame is what's going to bring people together. You could throw as many tools as you want, community, guild halls, whatever. It's going to be the long end game where people are sticking around and have chances to build those relationships. So since we're on the note of content patches and that sort of thing, developers say, okay, if you want these things, we have to have some cash flow coming in, right, to pay us to do this. What are your opinions? You've played many MMOs, so you've seen all the payment models. You've participated, I'm sure, in all of them. What do you think the Elder Scrolls Online should do, and what do you think they will do for a payment model?
I feel like they're going to do subscription. I feel like that's just what's going to happen. I've noticed recently, though, that games that are free to play tend to make a lot more money. And mostly, but it's for really cheesy reasons. Like mostly it's because they limit your inventory, like your bag size. So you have to spend money to buy bags.
Yeah.
And stuff like that where it gets real aggravating, but people do it. And because they get the game, they play it, they populate the world, then they form little bonds and like, well, I need more stuff I'm going to keep up with my friends that I'm playing with. So sure, I will pump money into this. I must have spent $100. Like I got Guild Wars, so the $50 or whatever it cost to buy that game. I must have spent another $100 in that game just to get my inventory and stuff because I was like, well, I'm gonna be in this guild, I'm gonna do stuff, and I kept buying things to make my character be able to get better, and that I that's a lot. But then you think about WoW and $14.99 for 6 years, so I guess it's one of those what do you do situations.
Yeah. I just hope if they do go subscription, that they don't stick with that same lousy $15 a month. There's no reason for it to be $15 a month. If they made it as cheap as Netflix is, I'd have no problem with it. Make it $5 a month or something. Just, it does not need to be $15.
What is PlayStation Plus is $4.99 a month. PlayStation Plus is the best deal around, by the way. Just heads up.
Yeah, free games and stuff.
You get free games. You get all sorts of free stuff as long as you're a member of PlayStation Plus. But it's only $4.99 a month. So I have like 50 free games on my PlayStation 3 right now. That is, I haven't even had a chance to play yet, but I got for free, so it's like instant download.
Yeah.
And it's just $4.99. That is like $5 a month is a perfect amount.
Yep, I agree. Josh, what I guess, what's your preferred play model? I don't know if you ever said what it was.
Oh, I actually don't mind a subscription fee, and here's why. As long as I'm getting, say, $15 a month, Elder Scrolls Online releases, and I'm paying $15 out of the pocket a month for this game. As long as I'm getting $15 worth of content patched in every month. The bull that came from WoW was, oh, you have to pay $15 a month because we add in content, all the time. No, not really. You add content
quest.
like every couple of months. Like
Yes.
you patch then, but I'm paying your $15 consistently. And then, okay, following that train of thought, I kind of go into this, well, maybe we should make it more of like a DLC scenario. You guys release more content, and if I want it, I'll take out my wallet and then pay for it. I think Lord of the Rings has kind of more of a system like that. Or actually, Guild Wars kind of capitalized
original,
that
yes.
a lot. Yeah, Guild Wars had, and I don't know how many of the expansions you purchased, Jesse, but like it seemed every year, right, there was an expansion for Guild Wars.
Well, I mean, I like Guild Wars system now, where like Guild Wars 2, where every month they have a new content update that adds new areas or new events and new things using the world they have. And I feel like the world changes just enough each time that it feels like things are progressing. And I think that's really creative. Now, mind you, I'm not a fan of like the world itself, but the things they're doing to it, I like. And I feel like if Elder Scrolls can do that and have this sort of ever-expanding world. So beyond the starting areas, because they're not going to mess with those too much. That's pretty much, that story is the story they're going to tell for this game. They'll probably do a new one in a future expansion, like that kind of stuff. But in Cyrodiil, because it's this area, and everyone's going to end up there, if they keep like progressing it and changing things and moving things along, it will feel like not only an Endgame, but like people are part of something that is happening and changing. And it's a world that is evolving around them, and it reacts to the things they do, or at least has the appearance of that, then I feel like that will it will do them wonders. If they keep updating it, people will keep playing. And if people keep playing, like I said, they'll form bonds, and that will keep them there for a long, long time.
Agreed. All right, so final question for you. We already know that you're probably going to want to be doing a ranged DPS type character. What alliance, race, and class are you thinking about doing at launch?
Definitely got to go Dominion first off.
Awesome. Thumbs up.
Because
the queen.
Oh, yes.
She's hot. Just say it. We already talked about this.
Oh yes.
Yeah, we did talk about this before because she's hot. No, honestly, my actual real reason is I'm convinced because of the success of Skyrim and everyone playing it, everyone's gonna want to be a Nord or an Argonian just so they can do a maid joke. Or like a dark elf kind of thing. So everyone's going to be just in the north doing that. And I'm convinced most people, because they can't decide on fantasy characters, most people end up as a human style character. And so I feel like the humans will and orc will end up being one sort of like really big faction. I feel like the Dominion is going to end up being the smallest, and thus that's where I want to be. Because the reason why I want to join, for example, in Warcraft, why I want to be part of the Horde, it's just like, look at them. look, they're such a ragtag bunch of bums, and at the
They've got
time,
huts made out of tusks and you know.
right? And at the time, and no one remembers this, and I'm so proud to just fully, like, it's burnt in my brain. When Warcraft first started, almost every server was almost all Alliance. Because the Alliance character had, like, the pretty elves, and they had all these things. They had the humans, and everyone loves to be a human because it's easy to, like, make a human version of yourself in a game. And they had all these great things. And the Horde were the ugly characters, and no one liked them. And every server you were on was pretty much, it was all lopsided. And I feel like that's the case with the elves. I am convinced of it, because elves are nice, but they aren't, like, pretty elves, right? Most games, elves are like the beautiful people. In Elder Scrolls, elves always sort of look like aliens to me.
They do.
Like,
Bug eyes.
yeah, they always look sort of weird, and I really enjoy that. Plus, maybe we'll get a lot of, like, Khajiit fans who are just like, yay, I want to be a cat. But I feel like, you know, as a caster elf, that's like a perfect combo. But I'm convinced they'll be outnumbered. Although now that pretty much all of us on our supercast were like, we're gonna go, you know, Dominion. I feel like maybe that's gonna change.
We just quadrupled their population right there.
But I know a lot of people were like, there's no way I'm gonna play an elf. Like, Jesse, I'm not gonna play with you. I'm like, all right, that's fine. I will gladly kill you. And I feel like that's the reason why. Although I will say, I'm going to, just because of my Skyrim Let's Play, I have a few race class combos that I'm gonna save just so I can save the name. And we'll leave it at that. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but right. No, I'll probably make a ridiculously named elf, something real silly, and just have a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. In fact, there's also a good reason. It's the only thing I haven't seen yet. I've seen the sort of Skyrim-y starting area, and I've seen the human starting area, but I haven't seen anything about elves.
Right. And I think they're saving it.
Yeah, which is what I'm excited, because who knows that's going to be.
Yeah, even Nick Conkle said that's his favorite area is the Almeri Dominion area.
Good. Because I want that to be great. And, you know, it should be fun, because they're like let's be honest, all the other races are kind of like, it's weird to say this, but they're all like the more attractive races. The elves in Elder Scrolls never looked good. Like, I never had a desire to play an elf in an Elder Scroll game, because they always looked really funky. And I was like, I got to play these guys, because they're the ugly ones. Only the hardcore people are going to be on there. Let's be real honest.
Yeah, all the ugly underdogs are gonna be on there with their angular faces, super pointy,
and their weird alien eyes. Yeah,
alien eyes and super weird hair. Do you remember Oblivion like elf hair, where it's like a chocolate kiss on your head, all twirly and weird? Like,
they're so strange. And one of the things I noticed is, as while playing around on some of the dark elf characters, they actually kind of look like badasses. They look really cool, and I was like, that's because they have this dark skin. They look like tough guys. I was like, the other elves are just gonna look weird. And I can't wait. I'm going to make mine look the weirdest. I'll make him this just ridiculously disgusting looking guy. And I'm going to name him, like, Beautiful Bob. Just to run around. It's be great.
There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Jesse Cox, the ugly underdog.
Yep.
All right, man. Well, we look forward to playing with you at launch. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to join us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been fun.
So where can we find you, Jesse?
You can find me at... I made it so simple now. Just go to jessecox.com. It'll forward you to the YouTube page. Oh. And you can go to Jesse Cox on Twitter. And just look up Jesse Cox on the old Facebook. It's simple. I'm so brand aware. It's called Synergy, people. And I've been told I need to have it.
And what's the tagline? Doing bad and loving it, or something.
Oh,
like
doing
that.
It wrong and loving it.
Doing it wrong and loving it. There it is. There it is.
That was something I said in a video a long time ago, and I was like, I'm using that. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So it's basically my get out of jail free card. They're like, it's like, look, if you don't expect me to do silly things in games, then you're doing it wrong.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. You have been listening to the Shoddy Cast with Kyle, Josh, and Jesse Cox. We'll catch you all next time.
Bye.
Boy.
sad face. Jesse goes in a corner.